at Luminar 2018. I'm going over all the filters one at a time. Today we're going to look at the black and white conversion filter. It's a pretty cool filter and it has a few little tricks up its sleeve, which I'm going to show you. It's got some neat little features, so hang on. Here we go. Okay, first off, let's duplicate our background layer because, again, we always like to work non-destructively. So on a Mac, if you press Command-J, you will duplicate the background layer. PC, you'll press Control-J on your keyboard. Okay, and that'll duplicate your layer. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is go up to our filter menu in Photoshop, click on Filter, go down to find Skylum Software, and click on Luminar 2018, which will launch Luminar 2018. Once that's launched, we want to go over to Add Filters, give that a click. And once you've clicked that, if you can't find your filter, and again, as I always tell you guys, there's 50 filters here, sometimes they're hard to find. You can go up to the search field and just type B&W conversion, you'll find it right away. But it is right here under the essential grouping of filters, black and white conversion. So let's give that a click, and that automatically turns your image into a black and white monochrome image. Now let's get rid of this filter list here because it's kind of in the way. So let's click on Add Filters, and that takes that away. Clicking in again will bring it back up. So let's look at this black and white conversion filter. Now up at the top here, you see these little circles with these colors in them. We have white and red, looks like orange, yellow, and green. These are these will simulate back in the day when we used to use film cameras and we were shooting with black and white films. We would put different colored filters on top of our lenses so we could get different looks to our images. In other words, we could put a red filter on there and our image would take on a certain tone to it. We could put a yellow filter on and so on and so forth. But this will simulate what those filters would do back in the film days. So if you click on the red filter, you'll notice your picture takes on a different appearance. Press the orange filter, another appearance. And there's the yellow filter and the green. And you notice when I'm clicking these buttons, these where it says luminance here, these values are changing here. And I'll explain this to you in a second. But let's go back to the white filter, which means no filter, and it sets all of your filters back to the center detent position. Now, what happens here is Luminar has converted your image over to black and white. And each one of these colors are represented in terms of brightness or luminosity on the image. In other words, red tones are going to have a certain luminous value, and yellow, green, cyan, blue, and magenta tones will have different values of luminosity. If we take the red slider and we move it to the right, any red tones will get brighter. And there was a lot of red tones in this. I believe it's a cow. Move it to the right, and if I move it to the left, I'll make the red tones get darker. So depending what look we want in our image, we can adjust these sliders and get just the look we want. Or we can use these filters up here to take one of their looks that they've already made for us. But I like to adjust it myself and get the look I want to get. If there's any yellow tones, they'll get brighter if I drag this to the right. They'll get darker if I drag it to the left. So depending on what look I want. You know, it changes the entire mood of the image when I bump this up to the right. You see that? I'm going to take mine maybe right about here. Now here's greens. So any greens in the image will get darker. There's not a whole lot of greens in the image. And you'll find out a lot of times that mainly grass tones consist of yellow rather than green. There is green there, but it's mainly yellow. So watch when I pull the green to the left. You can see certain areas of the picture get darker, right? So I can make those green tones come up brighter or darker. In my case, I'm going to let them go darker. Cyan. Let's see how much cyan tones are in here. Up in the sky. Mainly up in the sky there. Let's just brighten that up just a little bit. And then blue tones. Now, you got to be careful with these sliders because you got to really look at your image, because if you take a slider too far, you could introduce artifacts into your image. Just watch when I take this blue slider the whole way to the left. See these weird artifacts start coming in the image. See around the horns here and things like that. You got to be careful there, so be watching for that. So sometimes you can't drag these sliders the whole way sometimes because they'll do weird things to your image. In this case, I just want to pull the blues down a little bit, so right around there. And let's see if there's any magentas in our image. Yeah, a little bit right back in here, not that much. So I'm just going to double click on the word magenta, and that'll reset my magenta slider back to the center. Now, The exposure will adjust the exposure of the image, so we can move the exposure to the right or to the left and change the exposure of the image. So let's open that up a little bit here. Then we have contrast, pretty typical things we find in normal basic editing software, but it's nice to have it in this filter here so you can tweak up your black and white conversion. So let's just take up our contrast a little bit. I like a nice contrasty black and white image. Then we can adjust our highlights. We can make our highlights lighter by moving to the right, or we can dull the highlights down a little bit by going to the left. And depending on the look of the image, again, you adjust it to taste. I'm going to keep it right there. And then shadows, we can open up the shadows or we can shut the shadows down, depending what we like. In our case, what do I like? I'm just going to take the shadows down a little bit. Then we have a whites and a black slider. Okay. And also, if you want to see if you're clipping your whites or your blacks, if you press the J key on your keyboard, you'll notice right up here, you'll see these little clipping indicators. And right now you can see my whites are clipping right here. Wherever you see red is where you see whites clipping. Wherever you see blue is where blacks are clipping. So that means there's no detail in those areas. I have full on black here and full on white there where you see red. It's not so bad to have a clip black if you like the look of the image, because that whenever you print a printout, that ink will just go on stronger there, and it'll be a black ink going down onto the paper, which will be fine. But on white areas, especially on an inkjet printer, when you are printing and you have blown out highlights, basically what happens is no ink gets applied to the paper. So if you hold that paper in the light on an angle, it'll look funny. You'll see like there's no ink on there. No, it'll take a strange look to it. So you never want to clip your whites. Blacks, they're fine to clip. But whites, you really don't want to clip them. So what I do here is I would take my whites and pull it back just till that little red clipping indicator goes away. And I might have to pull back my highlights a little bit. Yeah, it's my highlights. My highlights are really causing that to go. Let me see if I can pull my whites up. Nope, I still have it right there. Right there. Pull my whites to the right a little bit. Right about there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And the blacks, I'm pretty good with that. I'm going to press the J key again on the keyboard, and that'll get rid of the clipping warning. And let me move my blacks to the right. Open up the blacks a little bit, and to the left will overall darken them down. So let me just open those up a little bit. I kind of like that. And of course, we have a nice clarity adjustment here, so we can add some little bit of clarity into our image. If you go too far, it's going to look really funky, especially in the background here. So you don't want to go too crazy with this filter. So I'm just going to bump that clarity up a little bit. And then you also have a detail slider, which will bring details out. Again, as you can see, if you move that up too much, you're going to see all kind of weirdness come into your picture. So you don't want to go up too high with these. So be careful with these sliders. Just move them slow, and a lot of times it's just a little bit will get the job done. So there you go. Now, if you want to see the before and after, you can come up here and click and hold this eyeball down. You can see the before and after. Or you can click right here where you see a split screen here, a compare mode here. Give that a click. And then this is cool. Watch, you can drag this bar across the screen to see the before and after. That's a neat feature. It's fun to play with, actually. But I like it. But there you can see the before and after. Click it again and it goes away. So I really like that. That looks really cool. I'm going to go ahead and save this out, bring it back into Photoshop, and then I'm going to come back into Luminar and show you another really cool feature that this black and white conversion filter has in it. Okay, so hang on one second and we'll get this back into Photoshop. So we'll click apply and we'll come right back into Photoshop. And there we are with our really nice black and white conversion. There it is, before and after. Okay, so let me shut the eyeball off in this one. So I'm going to click on the bottom background layer. I'm going to press Command J to duplicate it, or Control J in a PC. And we're going to come back into Luminar 2018, and I'm going to show you a really cool little feature of Luminar 2018 black and white conversion filter. So let's click the filter menu again and come down to Skylum Software, Luminar 2018. Come back in. And once we're in, we're going to click Add Filters, and we're going to go back to our black and white conversion. Click Add Filters again to remove the filter list off the screen. But this time we're going to click. Originally we had luminance selected, and that gives us our black and white conversion. And you notice everything defaults at in the center here. So it's just basically a basic black and white conversion. Then you can come and do all the adjustments like I did previously, and you saw me do that. But this is the cool part I want to show you about. See here where it says saturation? Let's click that. Now, notice something. All these colors are set to 0 by default by Luminar, and that's the way we get our black and white conversion. Now we have our colors, red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and magenta, right? So if I wanted just to bring up the red colors, watch, I can just slide the red slider to the right and just bring red in. Selectively bring red tones back in. Pretty cool. If you want some really nice color graded type looks, or just some, I don't know, just some artistic looks to your image, this is a really cool way of doing it. And who would think you would do it with a black and white filter, but you can. This is really cool. So let's say I want a nice muted down, somber looking image. So I'm going to bring my reds up a little bit, maybe somewhere right around there. Let's take our yellows and move those up and just play till you get a look that you like. Okay, so say maybe right around there. I'm thinking I'm in Ireland. Okay, somewhere around there. I don't know where this picture was taken from. I didn't actually take it. I got it off a stock website. But anyway, so let's just right around there. And now let's take a look at our greens. Remember, there wasn't a whole lot of green in there. And you can see the greens, right? Right up in here. The greens. So I'm gonna bring those up a little bit because I like a little bit of that green right up in there. And then our cyans, let's move our cyans up. Look, let's just add a hint of cyan, just a little bit of nice steely type cyanish blue in the sky. Now let's take our blues up a little bit, just a little bit of blue. We're getting a real nice low saturated image here. And let's check our magentas. I don't think we're going to find much magenta. I'm going to pull the magenta up, and you can see right there, there's magenta, but that looks horrible. So let's keep that off. Let's click on the eyeball, before, after, before and after. It's pretty cool, right? And again, let's click on this compare mode icon, and we can draw our slider across and see the before and after. So again, a whole nother look on your image, all with a black and white conversion filter. And we're not even using it for black and white. So it's a pretty cool filter. So give that a click. We're back to our image. Now let's click apply. And now we're going to go back into Photoshop, and let's look at our two images. So here's our first image right here that we made, which was the black and white conversion. And here is our second image. Okay. And I really like this one a lot. I'm really happy with that. And I do have to say, I am a black and white guy, and I do like that as well. And let's see, let's go back, and there's our original image. So 3 different looks, guys. 1 filter, 3 looks. Pretty neat. Actually 2 looks, but oh well. Well, I hope you liked this video, and I hope it was helpful today. If you have liked it, please give it a like. And also, if you're not a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And also click the notification bell so you can be notified of all the new training videos that I put up. I put them up every 1 to 3 days, so be on the lookout for them. And hey, guys, thanks for joining me today, and I will catch you later.